Tax season is here. People are filing their returns, and now the IRS wants you to use facial recognition to log into your IRS account to access your tax records. But on Capitol Hill, there's a bipartisan call to stop it before it goes into effect this summer. NTD's Melina Wisecup has the details.
It's that time of year to file taxes, but this year the IRS is asking you to create a new kind of account, ID Me. Using facial recognition technology, the website asks you to take a selfie and match it to your government ID. The IRS describes the new system as a way to keep your personal information safe.
The issue is the technology side, and the federal government has had a very, very poor history of dealing and holding and keeping confidential information protected.
The ID verification will not be required to file your tax return, but it would be required to view tax records and child tax credits. And on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are not happy about this. Today, Senator Wyden wrote, "It is simply unacceptable." Republicans and Democrats have sent a handful of letters to the IRS asking them to stop the rollout.
And secondly, what are their security measures that they're following? And knowing that they're an absolute target by the Chinese Communist Party, the Russians, and anybody else who wants to use the information to weaken the United States. So
cybersecurity is one concern for lawmakers. Representative Liu, in his letter to the IRS, wrote, "Americans will be forced to put sensitive data into a biometric database, which is a prime target by cyber attacks."
So, Melina, in light of this pushback from both parties, is the IRS still moving forward with this as planned, or are they considering taking a different approach?
Well, Steve, it looks like that pushback from lawmakers has been successful. The IRS just put out a statement today that they're going to transition and find a new form for ID verification. And that statement came just hours after Senator Ron Wyden sent that letter to the IRS raising those concerns. Now, while the IRS says they are working to transition to a new method of ID verification, they didn't specify when that transition will be complete. Steve?
Thanks for that, Melina. And Democratic Senator Joe Manchin on Sunday endorsed Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska for re-election. Murkowski faces a primary challenger, Kelly Tshibaka, who has the support of former President Trump and leaders of the Alaska Republican Party. Manchin called Murkowski a dear friend and said that the two worked well together. He also said that it's hypocritical to oppose someone on the basis of them having an R or a D next to their name. Alaska does not currently have a Democrat in the race. However, Republicans accuse Murkowski of siding with the Democrats on critical issues more often than with her own party. Representative Mike Waltz says that NBC has refused to broadcast his advertisement about the Beijing Winter Olympics. The ad criticizes U.S. companies for funding what he calls the genocide games. It also features Boston Celtics player Enes Kanter Freedom, who has been very outspoken about the human rights abuses of the Chinese Communist Party. Here's part of the ad.
The world's greatest athletic showcase. But just outside the show, rape, genocide, slave labor. American companies are drunk on Chinese dollars, entangled with communist dictators committing atrocities and propping up these genocide games staged by the Chinese Communist Party.
Stand for freedom, defund the dictators.
Representative Waltz posted the advertisement on Twitter Saturday, letting followers know about the ad NBC did not want the world to see. The ad lists several U.S. corporations, including Coca-Cola and Airbnb. Most are big sponsors of the International Olympic Committee, which provided large amounts of funding to the CCP in order for them to host the Games. NBC Universal says the ad is against their advertisement policy, which does not allow direct attacks on other organizations, including businesses. The Biden administration is raising the red flag on 33 Chinese companies whose legitimacy cannot be verified. The Commerce Department said Monday it's added 33 Chinese companies to an unverified roster. Some products shipped to China, seemingly for commercial use, end up being used for military purposes. U.S. companies will now need a license to ship products to any of these companies. China must permit the United States to check and inspect companies in order for them to be removed from the list. The Washington National Cathedral tolled its funeral bell 900 times beginning at 5 p.m. today. The bell was tolled in tribute to the more than 900,000 people who have died from the CCP virus in the United States. This is one toll for every 1,000 deaths. Last time the cathedral tolled the bell 800 times in mid-December. Today's tribute took almost 90 minutes. On Monday, U.S. figure skater Vincent Zhou withdrew from the Olympics men's competition after testing positive for the CCP virus. In an Instagram message, the silver medalist said he had been doing everything he could to self-isolate to the point of loneliness. Many athletes who've tested positive have complained about poor food and hygiene while in quarantine. Finland's hockey coach said his team captain Marko has not been getting proper meals and is under great mental stress. A Polish speed skater described her quarantine experience as a horror after being pulled out of isolation at 3 in the morning. Another Russian competitor said her stomach is in pain and that she cries every day. Senator Ted Cruz is asking the Federal Trade Commission to investigate GoFundMe. The online crowdfunding platform just ended a fundraiser for the Canadian truckers' convoy who are protesting vaccine mandates. The company has started to refund the donations.
I sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission asking that the FTC open an investigation into GoFundMe into whether they've committed deceptive trade practices, because when people gave money, they gave money under the promise it would go to the Freedom Convoy.
On Fox News Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo, Senator Cruz said that GoFundMe is deceiving consumers and that it is wrong. The crowdfunding platform claimed Friday that it was ending the fundraiser for the Canadian truckers' efforts. GoFundMe then said that they would be sending the $10 million that was raised to other charities instead of returning to the donors. But after overwhelming public outcry, including from several Republican attorneys general, GoFundMe said it would return the donations back to those who donated. Former NHL star Theo Fleury represented the Canadian ice hockey team in the Olympics twice and brought home a gold medal in 2002. Now he's on the front lines of a battle back in his home country of Canada. We have him here with us to discuss. Theo Fleury, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, Theo, Canada has been making national headlines in the U.S. recently with these giant convoys that started with truckers pushing back on these vaccine mandates. Just how big of a deal is this in Canada, and how many people are actually getting involved?
Well, it's probably the biggest event that's happened in our country in 150 years. You know, we've never seen anything like this, but we've never had a government, that has been this corrupt and this, putting the lockdowns, forced vaccinations, people losing their jobs, left, right, and center. So, the truckers have really ignited the patriotism in our country. People basically been locked in their houses for 2 years, and these truckers started this convoy, and then all of a sudden it was like an Olympic hockey year, where everybody goes into their closet, grabs their jersey, grabs their red and white garb, grabs their flags, makes signs, and as a grown man who's 53 years old, I tell you, I cried a lot of times just because of the amazing energy which this country has shown in the last, probably 2 weeks. It's been incredible.
Now, Theo, Prime Minister Trudeau came out and said he doesn't plan on meeting with or speaking with protesters who do not align with his views. How do you interpret the Prime Minister's comments?
Well, that this is the end goal. This is the end game. Is they want full control of our lives. What we put in our bodies. And the end goal is digital ID. They're trying to implement in Canada what they're doing in China. And you know what? The truth is coming out. And a huge light is shining on the truth, and everybody's talking about the truth. And it's unfortunate we have no media. We have a few small right-wing networks. But other than that, it is just straight propaganda 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on our mainstream media. And they are just outright lying looking at us right in the eye and lying about what's going on.
Now, before I let you go, are you optimistic that things will turn around? Are there any signs of movement that you're seeing from the front lines?
Where we're staying here till this is over and we get our freedoms back, and the country, and what's happening is more and more people are joining this this revolution that we're having in our country, and yeah, it's been great to watch, great to be a part of. I haven't felt this much pride in my country since I played in the Olympics in 2002. So this is great.
Theo Fleury, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Officials say quick thinking by a Maryland police officer may have saved a middle school student from being hit by a car. Corporal Annette Goodyear of the Northeast Police Department was directing traffic at a crosswalk when the student entered the intersection. The officer then realized that an approaching car was not going to be able to stop in time. She reacted quickly by pushing the student out of the way, but she herself was struck. Goodyear was taken to the hospital with minor injuries and was later released. The driver of the car was cited for several traffic violations.